This is going to be fun. Welcome to the very first episode of the Disney with Kels podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Conkling. Hey, it's Kelsey from the future. Sorry to interrupt, but if you're watching this on YouTube, I would like to apologize in advance. Apparently, the camera I got is not the best, and there are 2 sections of video that just don't exist anymore, apparently. So I have filled those blank sections with random footage and pictures, so please bear with me during those times because the normal video will return. Good news is the audio is perfection, so we're all good there. Okay, back to the show. Now, I'm sure most of you came from either TikTok or Facebook, and for that, I applaud you. I know that YouTube can be quite a drastic change from the world of TikTok and Facebook Reels, where I only have to hold your attention for about 90 seconds. So I thank you for taking a chance on my podcast over here on YouTube, where I will try to hold your attention for more than just a couple of minutes. If you didn't come from TikTok or Facebook, that's impressive. And I'm not sure how you found me, but regardless, I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad the rest of you are here as well. I've been wanting to branch out into YouTube and the world of podcasts for a while, and I'm glad it's finally happening. So the plan for this episode is to tell you a little bit about who I am in the real world, why I love Disney, and how I got into this social media business in the first place. So let's start. Let's get some introductions, or just one, because I'm the only one here. In case you missed it the first time, my name is Kelsey Conkling, and I am the creator behind Disney with Kels. I'm best known for playing the role of Stacy in my Disney-related skits on TikTok and Facebook Reels. I've been making these Disney-related skits for about 3.5 years and have been posting them to Facebook for about 1.5 years. And as of the recording of this episode, I have 221,000 followers on TikTok and 76,000 followers on Facebook. And I'll get into how all of that came to be in just a little bit. But for now, I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am, because you don't get a whole lot of information about that from just the Reels and the TikToks. I was born and raised in Northwest Arkansas, and I currently still live here and plan on living here for a long time. Now, some of you might be saying, wait, I thought she lived in Florida. Well, don't worry. That is a common misconception among my followers and just the people who watch my videos in the first place. Even though I've never claimed to or even hinted at living in Florida, except that one time after grad school when I was convinced I was moving to Florida. Anyway, moving on. The internet tends to cause us to assume things about our favorite creators, and I know that I have assumed a lot of things about the creators that I enjoy, so don't feel bad if you find out something about me that actually is not true, or vice versa. Unless that thing that you thought about me was bad, in that case, you should feel bad. Moving on. Another misconception that my followers have, and non-followers as well, is that I am a Disney cast member or that I am a former Disney cast member. And this could not be further from the truth. I personally do not have a desire to work for Disney, and I will go into those reasons for that in a later episode. But right now, that's just not the case, and I don't think that it ever will be. But going along with that, though, there's another group of people who think that I do content creation full time. And that is also not true. I do social media as a side gig, as a hobby, because I enjoy it. And it has helped quite a bit in terms of me reaching some of my goals. So, Kelsey, what do you do for work? Well, I'm glad you asked. My full-time job is as a school social worker for a local public school district. I have my bachelor's degree in Family and Human Services from John Brown University and my master's in social work from the University of Arkansas. And I'm currently a licensed master social worker in the state of Arkansas. So if you don't know what a school social worker does, we do a whole lot, but I'll try to just give you the highlights. So as a school social worker, it's my job to support the needs of our students and families so that the students can successfully receive an education. We work with the parents, guardians, caregivers, and the students themselves to help ensure that they have their basic needs met, such as food, clothing, shelter, like housing. We also support them in other ways, such as obtaining health insurance, mental health counseling, hygiene necessities, and also support our students in their education through their school attendance. I work with 2 other amazing social workers in our district, and also work with some stupendous school counselors and school administrators and teachers and all these people who are working together to make sure our students receive a quality education. So if you are able, please make sure you support your local school district, because these kids are so deserving of a quality education and to be a part of a very loving community. So that's what I call my 9 to 5 when it's, my 7:30 to 3:30. But being a social worker in a school district can be pretty unique when compared to social workers in other fields, because my contract generally lines up with the students' breaks. And I think that's why a lot of people think I do content creation full time. It's because I'm making content during the day, in the summer especially, but when I'm on school breaks and on the weekends. And so people think, oh, well, she's just doing this all day because she's obviously posting during the day. But it's because I get summer break and Christmas break and Thanksgiving and spring break and all these things. So we work really hard during the school year, and then we have breaks that the students have. And this really helps with burnout in our job. Social work has a very high burnout rate. The average career lifespan for a social worker is about 7 or 8 years. And school social workers is a lot longer because we do get those breaks to help with burnout. So I think that's just a cool little fact. But that's what I do as a school social worker. I actually go back to work in just a few days. So I'm very excited about that. And also saying goodbye to my summer break, but that's okay because I'm excited to meet with some of our families and get that ball rolling again for a really good school year. So another thing that I do, which I guess you could say it's for work, but it's truthfully not very lucrative, but I am an author, and I just released my debut novel called The Cost of Bliss back in October of 2023. So we're coming up on its first anniversary, first birthday, whichever you want to call it. And The Cost of Bliss follows a 14-year-old girl named Jane Prince and her family as they suddenly and unexpectedly find themselves in poverty. I think it's a pretty wholesome story about resilience, friendship, the importance of family, and navigating a world full of stigmas about those who are living in poverty and those who might need things like public assistance. I used my experiences working with youth and working as a social worker to inform the story, because Jane's story is so similar to a lot of families that are my clients, and that I just see in my line of work in general. And I wrote this book last summer, and it all came about rather quickly. As I mentioned before, since I get summer break off from work, I generally have a lot of free time in June and July. And last June, I went on a 2-week road trip by myself of the Southeast United States, had a blast. I'll go into that in another episode because, man, I could make a whole podcast about each day of the trip. It was so cool. But when I got back from that trip, I truthfully got very bored, and I needed some way to fill my time before school started again. So I decided to try to write a novel. And I've always enjoyed writing since I was little and have, just dreamed of being an author for a long time. So I decided to just go for it because why not? Why not just try? I started writing the novel on June 29th of 2023 and finished writing the first draft on July 30th of 2023. I would go to the library right when it opened and be there for 3 or 4 hours. And if the library wasn't open, then I would go to a coffee shop and do the exact same thing. And I did this every single day for a month because the story was just coming to me, and I got so passionate about the story and just writing it, and I wanted others to read it. So I had to keep going. But it was quite the feat for sure. But when I finished writing, it was just about time to go back to work. And so then I worked in the evenings and on the weekends to first of all, edit. There's so much editing. You think you're a good writer until you go back and look what you wrote and you're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense at all. My dad helped me edit as well. And so we worked together to edit it. And then I worked with the company to get my cover art made. And then I did all the formatting myself for the book. And y'all, let me tell you, that is difficult. Books don't just come formatted like that. Somebody has to do it. And I'm very grateful to live in the digital age where we have YouTube videos and TikTok tutorials and lots of people willing to give their expertise for free. It's just amazing. I'm very grateful for sure. But finally, when it was all said and done, I was able to release it on October 1st, 2023, which coincidentally is the anniversary of the opening of Disney World. I did that on purpose. Sort of, not really. It was just a good date, but then I'm like, oh, that works out perfect. So I self-published through Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing for single sales, and then Ingram Spark for wholesale distribution. So if you want your own copy of The Cost of Bliss, the link is in the description below. It's available for Kindle and paperback, and the audiobook is TBD, because honestly, it's just whenever I get around to recording it or hiring somebody else to record it. We'll see. Another thing about me that I just want to put out there because it is so important to me is that I am a Christian. My faith, again, is so important to me, and it's a huge part of who I am. So I just wanted to put that out there. I believe that I am a sinner who continuously falls short. And I also believe that Jesus Christ, who is fully God and fully man, lived a perfect life on this earth and stood in our place by dying on the cross so that we don't have to perish, but may live an everlasting life with him. Jesus has forever changed my life. And I know that even though I will still mess up over and over and over again, because, I'm just this feeble little human and dumb sheep, that Jesus in his great love and mercy forgives me, and he forgives you as well. All you have to do is believe in him and ask. It's that simple, and it's amazing. If you want to know more about what it means to be a Christian, I've linked some great resources down below. So just want to put that out there because I love Jesus, and he is my everything, and he is my joy. So all of that is just a little bit about who I am, what I do for work, how I fill my time. So now I just want to get into why I love Disney so much. So the biggest reason I love Disney in the general sense is one word: storytelling. And yes, that's one word. I did look it up. For over 100 years, the Walt Disney Company has told so many stories in so many different ways. They had cartoon shorts, animated movies, live action movies, documentaries, TV shows, books, and they even continue the magic of storytelling in the Disney parks around the world. And as an author especially, I believe in the power of storytelling. Stories transport us to worlds that we may never get to experience, or that might not even truly exist here in this realm of reality. Or they transport us to a story that might be right in our backyards. Stories teach us about humanity, and Disney stories show us that things that aren't even human can teach us about being human, which I think is so beautiful. Bears, fish, dogs and cats, and adorable little robots. And yes, I'm talking about WALL-E because he is my favorite, and I will take no debate on that. With these stories, we get to step into worlds where their only limits are our imaginations. And again, just such a beautiful thing that we've been blessed with imaginations. And I personally was born in the late 90s, so I grew up in what many call the Disney Renaissance era, where we got so many of what we now consider to be classic animated movies like The Lion King, Mulan, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, Aladdin, Tarzan, Lilo and Stitch, Emperor's New Groove, which I very much enjoy. And then the Disney Channel also gave us a lot of, again, what at least people my age consider the classic Disney shows of Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, That's So Raven, Hannah Montana, Good Luck Charlie, and Wizards of Waverly Place. So one of the big reasons that I love Disney so much is because I grew up with it, and it's a part of my childhood, and it gets to continue into adulthood. And the Disney parks are much of the same for me. Although, spoiler, I have only been to Disney World. My mom and I have a Disneyland trip planned for March, But currently, I've only been to Disney World and on the Disney cruises. But my goal is for someday to visit every single Disney park around the world. It's quite the feat, but I think I can get there. So, speaking of Disney World, my first trip to Disney World was when I was only 5 months old. And here's a picture of me on that trip. She is so cute. I don't know what happened. My brother had just turned 2, and my parents took us and my grandparents on a trip to Disney World for 10 days. And I believe we stayed in the Contemporary. So we were living it up. I was living it up as a little 5-month-old. So if we can blame anyone for my obsession with Disney, we can blame my parents, although I would never do that. I would just thank them because I still enjoy it to this day. You know, my wallet might blame them a little bit, but I would never do that, right? And at Disney World, there are so many stories being told simultaneously. And they're being told while you're in the ride queue, while you're on the ride itself, within each land of the park that you find yourself in. The restaurants are telling stories. The cast members play parts in all of these stories, and you find yourself being invited into the stories. And another thing I really appreciate about Disney is that we get to embrace our inner child. We are given full permission to be a kid again at the Disney parks and with Disney movies in general. I think far too many of us adults think that we're above playing pretend or using our imaginations in a playful way. We're always looking for ways to escape this world that is very scary and very uncomfortable. And oftentimes the things that we use to escape are really not to our benefit. But allowing yourself to escape into a world that is not this one, even for just a little while, can be so healing. And let's face it, it's fun. It's just plain fun. And I know that not everyone shares the same sentiment. A lot of people think Disney is just for kids, but I know that many of you think the same as me, is that it's for everyone. And Walt Disney thought so too. But even if you don't share the same sentiment with me about Disney World or just Disney or being a kid in general, I would encourage you to try. Try to let your imagination soar beyond the bounds of this reality, and you just might discover something new about yourself or about the world or how we treat other people. And I think Walt Disney said it best. He said, that's the real trouble with the world. Too many people grow up. And that's why I love Disney so much. We don't have to grow up. We don't have to forget who we were as children. That doesn't mean we abandon who we are as adults, because we've learned a lot, right? But we get to, even for just a little while, be kids where we don't have to worry about our performance review at work. We don't have to worry about who we're going to vote for. And we don't have to worry about the things that, adults are supposed to worry about because we're kids. And even if you had a childhood where you did have to worry about that, you had to worry about the things that adults were worrying about because the adults weren't worrying enough for you, you have permission to reclaim your childhood. Play pretend, dance in the rain, scream on a roller coaster, play dress up. You don't have to settle for a childhood that was out of your control. And it's okay to be a kid again. So that's why I love Disney. In a world of chaos and hardship and loss, we can have fun again. Whether that's watching a movie that transports us to another world or another time, playing pretend with our kids or our nieces and nephews, or even just by yourself. Or, even going to the Disney parks for just a little bit of an escape from the real world completely. That's why I love Disney so much. And that being said, I want the magic of Disney to be preserved for a very long time, because it's been preserved in the memories of so many people for generations now. And that's one of the big reasons I do my skits, is to help preserve the magic. There's a crowd of people that watch my videos that think I just sound very bitter and that I hate all guests of Disney, which that is so far from the truth. When people go to Disney World, I want them to be able to have fun. But it's really hard to have fun when there are people around you making that experience less than magical. So one of my goals with my skits is to show people how not to act or what not to do And let's face it, the Disney parks can be very complicated and very overwhelming if you've never been there before. So I also want people to get some insight into how things actually work at the Disney parks, Disney World specifically right now, whether that be a park rule or how the Disney transportation system works or dining or all these things, because I want people to be helped by these skits as well as entertain them in the meantime. So how did this whole social media thing even come about for me? I think, honestly, it was a lot of luck. And I think that's what social media is a lot of times. It's just luck. And I have worked hard to maintain that luck and keep it going for a long time. But let's be honest, that's what social media is a lot of the time. I mean, you can have a couple of videos go viral and suddenly you have all these followers that you don't know what to do with. But, my followers, I feel like they came on pretty slowly compared with other creators that have about as many followers as I do. So only a handful of my videos went super viral and super crazy. And it took a while for my videos to get as many views, like on average, as they do now. I average over 100,000 views on each video on both TikTok and Facebook. But again, it took a long time to get there. So if you're trying to build up your social media, just keep posting because you never know which one is going to stick. So going into like how this all came to be for me, I first downloaded TikTok in the fall of 2019. And at first, I was very anti-TikTok because I, first of all, didn't understand it. And it looked to me like a lot of the users on the platform were young teens, like 13 or 14-year-olds. And I was in college at the time. So I just really didn't think it was my scene because it was a lot of young teens. But when I did eventually download it, I only did so because the group of 7th graders that I was leading at a youth ministry kept making all these references and seemingly inside jokes and doing all these dances that I had never seen before, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So I downloaded it just so that I could relate to the youth. And honestly, it was pretty helpful there at the beginning. And of course, like many of us, I got sucked in rather quickly. And I went ahead and scrolled all the way to the bottom of my TikTok page for you guys. And I have hundreds upon hundreds of videos, so it took a minute. But I wanted to see when my first video was posted. And I posted my first video Valentine's Day 2020, which, if you recall, is about a month before COVID shut the world down. And it was this silly little dance video, and I think the sound actually got removed when TikTok removed a whole bunch of sounds from the platform. But for the next year, I just made a bunch of little videos every now and then that mostly followed trends and used trending sounds. And it wasn't until May of 2021 that one of my videos got a whole lot of attention. And that video was entitled, "The Mom Who Did Absolutely No Research About Disney World Goes to Disney World." Now, some of you I know have been around since that video, and that's amazing. But, it got about 500,000 views. And I filmed this video when I was packing for one of my Disney World trips with my mom. And I just had this idea. I was like, oh, that might be a funny thing, because there was a lot of different rules and regulations for COVID. So there was a lot of things that people didn't know just because they didn't care to do the research and go on the website. So I thought that was just a little funny thing. And the character's name of this skit was Sue Ann. And she has 2 kids, Mackenzie Ann and Huxley Cooper. And I've used those names some in my Stacy skits as well. But that's where they originally came from, was the Sue Ann skits. So once that video kind of got a lot of traction, I decided I was going to ride that wave because series do really well on TikTok. So I made plans to do a whole bunch of videos while we were at Disney World with Sue Ann and the silly things that she said. And that's what I did. I made 6 or 7 videos, I think, with Sue Ann, and those did pretty well too, but they still didn't give me a crazy number of followers. I got quite a bit, like a few thousand from those, but not a whole lot in the general sense. So after that, I still made a lot of short videos that followed trends and made a couple of skits, but I couldn't quite get some of them to stick until I brought back the Sue-Ann skits in September of that year, which was 2021, as well as some of my people watching videos that I filmed while in the Disney parks. Those did pretty well as well, but not crazy. But the skit that finally did super duper well and got me quite a bit of following was what eventually turned into Stacy. And in Stacy's first video, which was November of 2021, she of course was named Karen. She wasn't named Stacy yet. I just did the generic, what we call, a Karen. But in that first video, she was trying to get the cast member at Splash Mountain to let her in the Lightning Lane, even though she didn't buy Lightning Lane. And then the line that kind of got people, and I got a lot of stitches from that, was she said, "You're not allowed to tell the guests no. I'm a guest, so you can't tell me no." So that's what made that video do super well, I think. And I think a lot of people just like to see someone not get what they wanted when they were being rude. So it was fun to make. The true character of Stacy came about a month later in December of 2021, where her name was actually changed to Stacy when I knew I was going to make a whole lot more of these videos. And honestly, the rest is history. The vast majority of my skits have been with Stacy, and over time there have been new characters added in the Stacy videos. Her son Braxton, her husband Gerald. She has a sister named Charlene and a twin sister named Macy. And so if you want to go back and look for those, they're all in the Stacy playlist. But the majority of the time it is just Stacy and Braxton because people tend to like them the most. And I also tried to do skits with other characters, including my most recent one with Patricia, which I think I'll make a lot more with her too, because she's just a fun character to play. She's really rich and snobby and really uppity and doesn't like anything that other people do in the Disney parks to save money. She just wants the finest everything. And there's also been some others. There's the Crunchy Mom I did, the Gentle Parent, which a lot of people didn't like that one, but I thought it was funny. And my personal favorite, Grocery Store Man, who appeared in 1.5 TikToks. And he was from my time working at a very popular grocery store here in Northwest Arkansas. I'll just say that. He was mad about the prepackaged organic squash, and he thought that was my fault. And honestly, fair. It was my fault about the prepackaged squash. But he literally growled at me. You can go watch the skit, but it was true story. That one was a true story. And I also have some other recurring series videos, one especially about Disney Facebook groups. People tend to like those. Those are pretty fun to make as well. But then in December of 2022, I decided to expand my social media to Facebook as well, where I posted my TikToks as Reels. And most recently, the past several months, I've made just normal posts about my daily life. And a lot of them have been centered around my house that I renovated. This wall didn't used to be white. It used to be so many different colors. But I bought my first house and renovated it. And so I started sharing a lot of that on my Facebook page. And I also tend to post on Facebook what books I'm reading, which right now is the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. And I had never read these before or seen the movies. And so it was really cool to be able to go in with fresh eyes. And so if you want to know what I'm reading, follow me on Facebook, or I'll probably tell you about it here. Let's be real. But anyway, now here I am on YouTube, and whenever I go live on TikTok, there's always people asking questions about me, about my opinions on all things Disney, my opinions on like my favorites and things that are going on with Disney and just my life in general. So I thought it'd be cool to make a YouTube and podcast type thing to try to answer some of those questions, and honestly just be a really fun thing for me because I like to talk. Let's be honest. I like to talk, and I like to talk about Disney and the things that I love. So I'm hoping that you all like this, and if not, I'll probably still make the videos because I think it's fun. But this first episode was just designed to let you know about me, give you some background into who I am and why I love Disney and what this whole thing is about. And subsequent episodes are going to focus on a variety of topics, such as like my favorite things at Disney, like favorite attractions, resorts, snacks, all those types of things, and even Disney movies. I'll have some on the history of Disney, the Disney parks, Disney in general. Episodes about the Disney cruises, which I love. I've been on 5 Disney cruises, and I want to go on so many more. and really anything else that you guys want to hear me yap about. So if you have a specific topic in mind that you want to hear my opinion on, or just want to hear in general about the history of, or just some information, please leave a comment down below and I will read all of them and see what I can do. Please hit the subscribe button. It's completely free here on YouTube to subscribe to a channel. I would really appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, turn on those notifications. Just honestly hit all the buttons except the thumbs down. Although you have freedom of speech, so if you really didn't like it, you can hit the thumbs down, but my feelings won't be hurt except a little bit. So thank you all so much for listening to the very first episode of the Disney with Kels podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Conkling, and I hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. See you later.